The metal restraints cut into Kang Jinho's wrists as the prison transport ship rattled through space. He sat alone in the holding cell, staring at the gray walls that would be his home for the next 3 days. 3 days until they dropped him in the wild zone. 3 days until he died. Jinho didn't feel afraid. He felt angry. Angry at the Galactic Council. Angry at the lies they told about Earth. Most of all, angry that saving lives had become a crime. The door hissed open. Ambassador Hana stepped inside, her face tight with worry. She carried a datapad and a small package. The guard behind her looked uncomfortable, but said nothing. "Jinho," she said quietly, sitting across from him. "I shouldn't be here. Then why are you?" His voice came out harder than he meant. Hana touched the datapad. A hologram appeared between them, showing a planet covered in thick jungle. Purple clouds swirled in the atmosphere. The image flickered and glitched, as if reality itself couldn't decide what the planet looked like. "Creo 7, your destination." She paused. "I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't change anything," Jinho said. "I did what was right. Those civilians needed help. I couldn't just leave them to die." "I know." Hana's voice cracked slightly. "That's why I'm here. The Council is making an example of you. They say humans are too violent, too unpredictable. They want to remind Earth that we answer to them." Jinho leaned back against the cold wall. "How long do people usually survive in the wild zone?" Hana looked away. 11 hours. The longest recorded survival was 4 days. And after 4 days, the man went insane from the reality storms. He walked into a gravity well and was crushed. She pushed the package across the table. "This is all I could get you. Basic survival gear. Rations for 2 days. A knife. A small medical kit." Jinho took the package. It felt lighter than it should. "That's it?" "That's everything the Council allows." Hana stood up, her hands shaking. "There's something else you need to know. You're not the first human exiled to Creo 7. 3 others before you. We never recovered their bodies." "Did they leave anything behind?" "One did. Before he died, he sent a final transmission. Just 3 words. Befriend the monsters." Hana shook her head. "We thought he was delirious. Reality storms do that to people." The guard knocked on the door. Time was up. Hana reached out and squeezed Jinho's shoulder. "Survive, Jinho. Just survive. Some of us back on Earth are working to prove this exile was illegal. But we need time. How much time?" "I don't know. Weeks, maybe months." She walked to the door, then turned back. "The Council thinks humans break too easily. Prove them wrong." The door closed. Jinho was alone again. For the next 3 days, he studied everything in the datapad Hana had hidden in the package. Reports about the wild zone, creature sightings, planetary anomalies. Most of it was useless scientific jargon, but some details stood out. The wild zone wasn't natural. Something had happened here thousands of years ago. Something that broke the normal rules of space and time. Gravity shifted randomly. The sky changed colors. Plants moved like animals. And the creatures that lived here had adapted to the chaos. The most dangerous creature was called a void fang. 12 feet tall. 6 limbs. Covered in scales that could phase in and out of reality. The report said they were extinct. The Galactic Council had hunted them all down after. Void fangs destroyed 3 military fleets. Jinho looked at the blurry photos. The creatures looked terrifying, but something in their eyes seemed intelligent, almost knowing. On the 3rd day, the ship arrived at Creo 7. 2 guards dragged Jinho to the drop pod. They strapped him in roughly, not meeting his eyes. One of them, a young alien with blue skin, whispered something as he checked the restraints. "Good luck, human. You'll need it." The pod door sealed shut. Through the small window, Jinho watched the transport ship pull away. Then the pod began to fall. The descent was violent. The pod shook and spun as it hit the atmosphere. Warning lights flashed. The computer announced impact in 30 seconds. 20 seconds. 10 seconds. The pod crashed through the jungle canopy and slammed into the ground. Jinho's head cracked against the headrest. Blood ran down his face. The restraints released automatically, and he fell forward onto his hands and knees. For a moment, he just breathed. His ribs hurt. His head pounded. But he was alive. Jinho grabbed the survival package and kicked open the pod door. Hot, humid air rushed in. The smell hit him first: wet earth, rotting plants, and something else. Something electric, like the air before a lightning storm. He stepped out into the jungle. The trees were massive, their trunks wider than buildings. Vines hung down like curtains. The leaves glowed with soft blue light, pulsing slowly like heartbeats. Above, the purple clouds moved in patterns that hurt to watch too long. Jinho's military training kicked in. First priority, secure the area. Second, find water. Third, build shelter. He searched the crash site. The pod was useless now, crumpled and smoking. But nearby, half buried in mud, he found something else. A helmet, human-made, old. Scratched into the side were words. Day 6. They're not animals. They're watching, learning. Jinho turned the helmet over. Inside was more writing. Don't hunt what hunts you. Befriend it. His hands tightened on the helmet. Someone had survived 6 days here. Someone had learned something important before they died. A sound made him freeze. Something large moved through the jungle. Trees swayed. Vines snapped. Whatever it was heading his way. Jinho drew his knife and backed against a tree. His heart hammered. The sound grew louder. Closer. Then it stopped. Silence fell over the jungle. Even the glowing leaves seemed to hold their breath. Jinho scanned the shadows between the trees. Nothing. Just darkness and those pulsing blue lights. He waited for 5 minutes. 10 minutes. Nothing attacked. Slowly, carefully, he moved away from the crash site. The helmet's message burned in his mind. Don't hunt what hunts you. Befriended. As the sun set, the jungle changed. The blue glow brightened. New sounds emerged, chirps, howls, and deep rumbling that seemed to come from the ground itself. The purple clouds began to swirl faster. Reality storm, Jinho thought. He found a small cave and crawled inside. It was barely large enough for him to lie down. He ate half a ration bar and drank a little water. Then he waited. Outside, the jungle came alive. Shapes moved in the darkness. Some walked on 2 legs. Others crawled. One flew past the cave entrance on wings that flickered like broken holograms. Jinho gripped his knife and watched. Just survive, Hana had said. Just survive. The first night in the wild zone felt like it would never end. But when morning finally came, Jinho was still breathing. He had survived 11 hours, the average death time. He crawled out of the cave and looked at the alien jungle around him. Somewhere out there were the creatures that had killed trained soldiers. Somewhere out there was whatever had been watching him yesterday, and somewhere out there, maybe, was a way to survive long enough for rescue. Jinho picked up his knife and started walking deeper into the wild zone. 3 days had passed since the crash. 3 days of hell. Jinho had learned quickly that the wild zone didn't follow normal rules. Gravity changed without warning. One moment he walked normally. The next he felt light as air. Sometimes he felt so heavy he could barely move. The key was to keep moving, to never stay in one place too long. The plants were the worst surprise. On the second day, he had reached for what looked like fruit. The tree grabbed his arm. Vines wrapped around his wrist like fingers. He had to cut himself free, leaving his knife stuck in the tree's bark. The tree screamed an actual sound that made his ears ring. He had recovered the knife, but now he touched nothing without checking it first. Water came from a stream that flowed upward. Jinho didn't understand it, but the water tasted clean. Food was harder. The ration bars would run out soon. He had tried eating some purple berries that looked safe. They made him throw up for an hour. On the fourth day, everything changed. Jinho was setting up camp near a cluster of glowing rocks. The rocks gave off heat at night, which helped. He had just finished building a small shelter from branches when he felt that something was watching him. He had felt eyes on him before. The jungle was full of creatures. But this was different. This felt intelligent. Focused. Jinho slowly reached for his knife. He didn't turn around. Instead, he used the reflection in his water bottle to scan the area behind him. Nothing. Just shadows and blue light. But the feeling didn't go away. He spent the evening preparing. He sharpened his knife. He arranged rocks around his shelter to give early warning if something approached. He rationed his last energy bar into tiny pieces. Night fell. The purple clouds began their nightly dance. The reality storm was starting. That's when he heard it. Heavy footsteps. 6 of them, moving in rhythm. Something big. Something that didn't care about being quiet. Jinho grabbed his knife and stepped out of the shelter. His hands were steady. Fear was useless here. He had accepted death when they put him on that ship. Through the bioluminescent fog, he saw it, a void fang. The creature stood at the edge of the clearing, its massive form barely visible in the shifting light. 12 feet tall, just like the report said. 6 powerful limbs ending in claws that looked sharp enough to cut metal. Its scales shimmered, phasing in and out of reality. One moment solid, the next transparent like a ghost. But what struck Jinho most were its eyes. They glowed with a soft amber light. And they were looking right at him. The void fang tilted its head, studying him. Jinho's military training screamed at him to run. But something made him stay still. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was exhaustion. Or maybe it was the memory of that helmet's message. Don't hunt what hunts you. Befriend it. Easy, Jinho said quietly, though he doubted the creature understood him. I'm not here to hurt you. The void fang took a step forward. The ground shook slightly. Then another step. Jinho's heart pounded, but he didn't run. He kept his knife lowered, non-threatening. The creature stopped 10 feet away. This close, Jinho could see details the reports never mentioned. Scars on its scales. A pattern of markings along its neck that looked almost decorative. And something else. It was limping. The void fang's left rear leg didn't move properly. It dragged slightly with each step. Jinho's eyes followed the injured leg down. There, wrapped around the limb just above the foot, was something metal. An energy snare. He recognized it from his military days. The kind of trap that tightened when you pulled against it. The more you struggled, the tighter it got. The void fang had probably been caught for days. Maybe weeks. You're stuck, Jinho said softly. The creature's eyes narrowed. It made a sound low and rumbling, like distant thunder. Not aggressive. Almost questioning. Jinho did something crazy. Something that would probably get him killed. He put his knife on the ground and raised both hands. I can help, he said. If you let me. The void fang watched him. Its scales flickered between solid and transparent. Jinho could see the intelligence in those amber eyes. The creature was thinking, deciding. Finally, slowly, the void fang lowered itself to the ground. It stretched out its injured leg toward Jinho. Jinho's breath caught. The creature was trusting him. Or maybe it was just desperate. He approached carefully, hands still visible. The Void Fang's head followed his every movement. This close, he could feel the heat radiating from its body. He could smell something sharp and electric. Jinho knelt beside the trapped leg. The energy snare was council-made, designed for capturing dangerous creatures alive. It was wrapped tight around the leg, cutting into the scales. Blood had dried around the edges. "This is going to take a while," Jinho said, more to himself than the creature. "These things are designed to be permanent." He retrieved his knife and began working. The snare had multiple layers. Each one had to be carefully cut without triggering the tightening mechanism. One wrong move and the snare would crush the Void Fang's leg completely. An hour passed. Then too, Jinho's hands cramped from the precise work. Sweat dripped into his eyes. The Void Fang never moved. It barely breathed. Those amber eyes stayed fixed on him. "Almost there," Jinho muttered. His fingers worked at the last layer. Just a bit more. 3 hours in, the Void Fang made a sound. A low rumble that Jinho felt in his chest. He froze, thinking he had heard it, but the creature wasn't looking at him. It was looking past him into the jungle. Jinho turned his head slowly. In the shadows between the trees, other shapes moved. Smaller creatures, but still dangerous. They had been drawn by the smell of blood from the Void Fang's injury. "Not good," Jinho whispered. The Void Fang's rumble grew louder. The smaller creatures stopped moving. They stayed in the shadows, watching, waiting. Jinho went back to work, faster now. His fingers slipped once and the snare tightened slightly. The Void Fang hissed in pain but didn't pull away. Sorry, Jinho said. He adjusted his grip and tried again. 4 hours. 5 hours. The night wore on. The reality storm intensified around them. Colors swirled in the sky that shouldn't exist. Gravity shifted, making Jinho's hands feel heavy one moment and weightless the next. But he kept working. Finally, with a soft click, the last layer released. The energy snare fell away from the Void Fang's leg. Jinho stumbled backward, exhausted. "It's done. You're free." The Void Fang stood slowly. It tested the injured leg, putting weight on it carefully. Then it turned those amber eyes back to Jinho. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Man and monster. Prey and predator. Jinho realized he was completely defenseless. His knife was on the ground, too far to reach. He was tired and weak. The Void Fang could kill him in seconds. The creature took a step toward him. Jinho didn't move. "Go on," he said quietly. "You're free now." The Void Fang circled him once, twice. Its massive form moved with surprising grace despite the injured leg. It leaned down, its head level with Jinho's. This close, Jinho could see himself reflected in those amber eyes. He looked small, fragile, human. The Void Fang made a sound softer this time, almost gentle. Then it turned and walked into the jungle. Within seconds, it had vanished into the bioluminescent fog. The smaller creatures in the shadows scattered, fleeing from something they feared more than hunger. Jinho sat down hard on the ground. His hands shook. His whole body shook. What did I just do? He asked the empty clearing. He had freed the wild zone's most dangerous predator, the creature that had destroyed council fleets, the monster that was supposed to be extinct, and now it knew where he lived. Jinho laughed a slightly hysterical sound. He was definitely going to die, but maybe not tonight. He retrieved his knife and crawled into his shelter. Sleep came quickly, despite everything. Exhaustion won over fear. When morning came, Jinho found something waiting outside his shelter. A large creature, some kind of jungle animal, lay dead on the ground. Its neck was broken cleanly. No other marks on it. Fresh food. Left by something that could have killed him instead. Jinho looked into the jungle. He saw nothing but trees and fog. But somewhere out there, he knew the Void Fang was watching. "Thank you," he said to the jungle. The jungle didn't answer. But Jinho felt something shift. The feeling of being hunted was gone. Now he felt something else. He felt protected. The Void Fang came back the next morning. Jinho was cooking meat from the creature it had brought him when he heard the familiar six-legged footsteps. He didn't reach for his knife this time. Instead, he kept cooking, acting as natural as possible. The Void Fang emerged from the fog and sat down at the edge of the clearing. It watched him with those intelligent amber eyes. "Morning," Jinho said, like this was completely normal. "Want some?" "Oh wait, you already ate, didn't you?" The creature tilted its head. Jinho smiled despite himself. That head tilt was almost curious, almost playful. Over the next few days, a strange routine developed. The Void Fang would disappear during the day, hunting or doing whatever it did. But it always returned. Sometimes it brought food. Other times, it just sat nearby, watching the jungle. On the sixth day, Jinho decided to give it a name. "I can't keep calling you the Void Fang," he said. "You need a name. How about Tay?" The creature looked at him. "Tay was my brother's name," Jinho explained, surprised at himself for talking. "He died in the war. Bravest person I knew. Saved my life more times than I can count. You kind of remind me of him. Big, scary, but loyal." Tay, the name felt right, made a low rumbling sound. Not aggressive. More like acknowledgement. Tay it is then. That day, Jinho learned something new about his companion. They were near the upward-flowing stream when reality shifted. The purple clouds above swirled faster, and suddenly gravity reversed. Jinho felt himself falling upward. He grabbed a tree branch, holding on desperately as rocks and water rose into the sky around him. Then, Tay did something impossible. The Void Fang's body flickered. One moment it was solid. The next it became transparent like smoke. It phased partially out of reality itself, becoming immune to the gravity shift. It reached out with one massive clawed arm, grabbed Jinho gently, and pulled him behind a large rock formation. The gravity shift ended as suddenly as it started. Everything crashed back down. Jinho landed on his feet, breathing hard. Tay solidified beside him. "You can control it," Jinho said, amazed. "You can phase in and out of reality." Tay's scales shimmered in response, like it was showing off. Over the following days, Jinho observed more. Tay could generate electromagnetic pulses that disabled technology. When a council survey drone flew overhead one day, Tay released a pulse that sent it crashing into the jungle. Tay also seemed to sense danger before it happened. More than once, it had pulled Jinho away from spots where reality storms would strike moments later. "You're not just smart," Jinho said one evening as they sat together. "You're connected to this place somehow. You understand the wild zone in ways I never could." Tay rumbled softly. It had started doing that when Jinho spoke, like it was learning to understand human language through tone and context. On the 10th day, Jinho got sick. The reality storms had been getting worse. One had caught him unprepared, and he had breathed in some kind of glowing spore from a plant. By evening, he was burning with fever. His hands shook. His vision blurred. He collapsed in his shelter, too weak to move. Tay found him like that. The Void Fang made a distressed sound, the first time Jinho had heard anything like worry from it. It vanished into the jungle. Jinho drifted in and out of consciousness. He dreamed of Earth, of his brother Tay, of the civilian colony he had tried to save. In his fevered mind, the past and present mixed together. When he woke, cool water was being dripped onto his lips. He opened his eyes and saw Tay. The Void Fang had somehow found large leaves that held water and was carefully tipping them to give him a drink. "Tay," Jinho whispered. "You came back." The Void Fang rumbled softly. Over the next 2 days, it didn't leave Jinho's side. It brought water. It dragged over glowing plants that seemed to purify the air. It even used its own body to shield Jinho from reality storms, phasing just enough to let the dangerous energy pass through without hurting either of them. By the 13th day, Jinho recovered. Weak, but alive. "You saved my life," he told Tae. "We're even now. You didn't have to do that." Tae simply watched him with those knowing eyes. And Jinho realized the truth. They weren't keeping score. This wasn't about debts. Somehow, against all logic, they had become friends. That evening, something happened that changed everything. Jinho was examining the broken council drone that Tae had destroyed. Most of it was fried by the electromagnetic pulse, but the communication module was intact. With some work, he managed to get it partially working. He scanned through the recorded transmissions and found something shocking. A message from Earth, from Captain Woojin of the Defense Force. The message was fragmented, but enough was clear. Jinho's exile was a legal political move. Director Sin covering organizing rescue. Need to prove. Wait for signal. Jinho's hands trembled as he replayed it. Someone was coming for him. His exile wasn't just cruel, it was illegal. Someone on the council had broken the law to get rid of him. But who was Director Sin? And why target him specifically? He searched through more of the drone's data. There, buried in surveillance reports, he found files about Tae, about Voidfangs. The Galactic Council hadn't just hunted Voidfangs because they were dangerous. They had tried to colonize this planet. The Voidfangs had been defending their home. But calling them animals, calling them monsters, made it easier to justify genocide. They lied, Jinho said, looking at Tae. You weren't the bad guys. They were. Tae moved closer, sensing his distress. Jinho found more data. Reports of other Voidfangs spotted in the wild zone. The species wasn't extinct. They were hiding. And the council knew it. They sent drones to monitor, to track, waiting for the day they could finish what they started. They wanted me to die here, Jinho said slowly, understanding now. And if anyone discovered you were alive, it would give them an excuse to come back, to finish their genocide. That's when the next reality storm hit. This one was worse than anything Jinho had experienced. The sky tore open with colors that hurt to look at. Gravity didn't just shift, it went crazy. Up became down, left became right. The jungle itself seemed to scream. Jinho felt himself being pulled apart. Reality was unstable, and he was caught in the middle of it. He could feel his atoms starting to separate, pulled in different directions by competing forces. Then Tae was there. The Voidfang did something that should have been impossible. It phased into the rift itself, diving into the unstable reality. Its body flickered and glitched, half existing in multiple dimensions at once. The pain must have been unimaginable, but Tae pushed through. It grabbed Jinho with two of its powerful arms and physically pulled him back to stable reality. They tumbled together onto solid ground as the rift collapsed behind them. Tae lay still. Its body was smoking. Some of its scales had been torn away. Blood seeped from wounds. Jinho couldn't fully see injuries that existed partially in other dimensions. No. Jinho crawled to his friend. Tae, stay with me. He used everything in his medical kit. He tore strips from his clothes to bandage the visible wounds. He held Tae's massive head in his lap and talked to it, begged it to hold on. You can't die, Jinho said, tears running down his face. Not for me. I'm not worth it. Tae's amber eyes opened slightly. It made a soft sound almost like it was disagreeing. They stayed like that through the night. Jinho kept watch, fighting his own exhaustion. Tae's breathing was shallow but steady. Slowly, impossibly, the wounds began to heal. Whatever biology Voidfangs had, it was beyond human understanding. By morning, Tae was able to stand. It limped, favoring its injured leg again. But it was alive. Jinho hugged the creature's massive neck, not caring how strange it looked. "Thank you. Thank you." Tay rumbled a sound Jinho now recognized as affection. As the sun rose over the wild zone, Jinho made a decision. Captain Woojin was coming. There would be a rescue attempt. But this wasn't just about saving himself anymore. The Council had committed genocide against an intelligent species. They had lied to the galaxy. They had exiled him here to die and cover up their crimes. "We're going to expose them," Jinho told Tay. "We're going to show everyone what really happened here. And we're going to make sure they can never hurt your kind again." Tay's eyes gleamed with what Jinho swore was understanding. Maybe even approval. The bond between them was undeniable now. Not human and pet. Not master and servant. But equals. Partners. Friends. In the distance, thunder rolled across the purple sky. More storms were coming. But Jinho wasn't afraid anymore. He had survived the wild zone. He had befriended its deadliest creature. And together, they were going to change everything. The alarm came on day 17. Jinho had rigged the broken drone's sensors to watch the sky. When it started beeping frantically, he knew what it meant. Ships were entering the atmosphere. "Tay," he called out. The Void Fang appeared from the jungle within seconds. Over the past week, it had learned to respond to his voice. Now it stood beside him, tense and alert. Jinho checked the sensor data. 3 ships, military grade, Council markings. "They're not here for rescue," Jinho said grimly. "They're here for you." Through the hacked communication channels, he heard their chatter. Electromagnetic signatures confirmed. At least one Void Fang alive on the surface. Orders are clear. Capture the creature. Eliminate the human. No witnesses. Commander Rax, we're detecting unusual energy patterns. The human signature is close to the Void Fang. Probably ate him already. Doesn't matter. Begin descent. Jinho's jaw tightened. Commander Rax. He knew that name. A mercenary who worked for the highest bidder. If the Council had hired him, they wanted this done quietly and permanently. "We've got maybe an hour before they land," Jinho told Tay. "They'll come with weapons designed to hurt you. Neural restraints. Reality anchors to stop you from phasing." Tay rumbled low, a sound Jinho now recognized as anger. "Yeah, I'm angry too. But we're not going down without a fight." Jinho grabbed his knife and the few pieces of salvage tech he had. "The jungle is our advantage. We know it. They don't. We use that." Over the next hour, they prepared. Jinho set traps using the jungle's unstable physics. He found areas where gravity would randomly shift and marked them carefully. He identified trees that would grab at anything that touched them. He even found plants that released knockout spores when disturbed. Tay helped, using its understanding of the wild zone to show Jinho the most dangerous areas. When the Council ships landed, they came ready for war. 15 mercenaries in full combat armor. Reality stabilizing equipment. Weapons that crackled with energy, designed to harm creatures that could phase. Commander Rax led them, a tall alien with gray skin and too many eyes. He carried a neural whip, a weapon specifically designed to incapacitate Void Fangs. "Spread out," Rax ordered. "Use the trackers. The Void Fang can't hide its electromagnetic signature." The mercenaries moved into the jungle in formation, professional, experienced. They didn't know what they were walking into. First trap triggered within 10 minutes. 3 mercenaries stepped into an area where Jinho had disturbed the ground. The tree grabbed them instantly, vines wrapping around their armor. They screamed into their communicators as the tree began to crush them. Trap. "We've got." The transmission cut off as knockout spores burst from nearby plants. Rax cursed. "Careful." The humans been busy. Stay alert. The second trap was gravity. Jinho had marked a zone where gravity would flip in exactly 17 minutes. He had timed it perfectly. When the next group of mercenaries passed through, the sky became the ground. They fell upward, crashing into the canopy. Their reality stabilizers kept them from phasing, but couldn't protect them from a 50-foot fall. What is this? One mercenary shouted. The humans shouldn't know how to use the wild zone like this. He's at help, Rax said slowly. The Void Fang. They're working together. That realization changed everything. The mercenaries became more cautious, more frightened, but it also made them more dangerous. Rax adapted his strategy. Stop chasing. Set up a perimeter. Use the reality anchors to create a stable zone. Force them to come to us. It was a smart move. The anchors hummed to life, creating a bubble where the wild zone's chaos couldn't reach. Inside that bubble, Tay couldn't phase, couldn't use its natural advantages. Jinho watched from cover as the mercenaries formed a defensive position around their equipment. He counted 9 left. 6 had fallen to the traps. They're smart, he whispered to Tay. We can't trick them the same way twice. Tay made a questioning rumble. Yeah, we need a new plan. Jinho thought hard. They're using the anchors to control the battlefield. So we destroy the anchors. But the anchors were in the center of their formation, well protected, heavily guarded. Jinho smiled grimly. Which means we need a distraction. He explained his plan to Tay using gestures and simple words. The Void Fang's eyes gleamed with understanding. Jinho circled around the mercenaries' position, moving carefully through the jungle. When he was directly opposite from where Tay hid, he picked up a rock and threw it hard into their camp. Contact! Northeast. A mercenary shouted. They opened fire in that direction, energy weapons lighting up the jungle. Jinho stayed low, letting them waste ammunition on shadows. While they were distracted, Tay moved. The Void Fang was massive, but it could move with surprising silence when needed. It crept along the edge of the stable zone, staying just outside where the anchors could affect it. Then Jinho gave the signal, a sharp whistle. Tay charged. Void Fang burst into the clearing at full speed. The mercenaries spun, weapons raised. But Tay wasn't heading for them. It was heading for the anchors. Stop it! Rax screamed. Energy bolts filled the air. Most passed through Tay as it phased, but some hit. The Void Fang roared in pain but didn't stop. It crashed into the first anchor, smashing it with one powerful strike. The stable zone flickered. Tay destroyed a second anchor. A third. The wild zone came rushing back in. Gravity shifted. The purple cloud swirled overhead. Reality became unstable again, and now Tay could phase freely. The Void Fang became a nightmare. It appeared behind one mercenary, knocked him unconscious with a careful strike, then vanished before his companions could react. It phased through weapons fire, attacked from impossible angles, used the jungle's chaos to its advantage. Jinho joined the fight, using his knife and guerrilla tactics. He wasn't trying to kill, just disable, distract, divide their attention. Fall back. Rax ordered. Regroup at the ships. But the jungle had other ideas. Reality storms intensified. The ground became like water in some places, solid air in others. Mercenaries got separated from their teams, lost, confused. Jinho intercepted their communications again. This is Beta Team. We're under attack. It's not just the Void Fang. The human fights like he was born here. Alpha Team reporting. Lost visual on the target. Repeat. Lost visual. This jungle is alive. Commander, we need extraction now. This mission is compromised. Rax's voice came through, tight with fear masked as anger. Hold position. We complete the mission or die trying. The council demands. His transmission ended with a roar. Tay had found him. The commander fired his neural whip, but Tay faced through it. The Void Fang grabbed Rax's weapon with one clawed hand and crushed it like paper. Then it looked at him with those intelligent amber eyes. Rax stumbled backward. What? What are you? Tay didn't attack. It just stared, making sure Rax understood what he was facing. Not an animal. Not a monster. An intelligent being defending itself. Then Tay knocked him out with one precise strike. The remaining mercenaries broke and ran. They abandoned their equipment and fled back to their ships. Jinho let them go. There was no point in more violence. Within an hour, 2 of the 3 ships lifted off and fled into space. The third was too damaged to fly. Tay had destroyed its engines. Jinho and Tay stood in the clearing, battered but alive. The ground was littered with abandoned council equipment. Evidence of everything that had happened here. We won, Jinho said, breathing hard. Blood ran down his arm from a graze wound. They came to kill us, and we won. Tay rumbled softly and limped to his side. The Void Fang was injured. 2 burns from energy weapons, scratches from the fight. Come on, Jinho said. Let's get patched up. They returned to their camp together. As Jinho cleaned and bandaged their wounds, he thought about what came next. The mercenaries would report back. The council would know their mission failed. They would know a human and a Void Fang were working together, and they would send more. This isn't over, Jinho told Tay. They'll come back with everything they have. Tay made a sound, not worried, but determined. Jinho managed a tired smile. Yeah, but next time we'll be ready. He accessed the communication channels one more time, hoping for news of Captain Woojin's rescue mission. What he found instead made his blood run cold. A priority transmission from Director Sin. Mission failed. Human and Void Fang confirmed alive and cooperating. Accelerate timeline. Destroy the planet. No survivors. No evidence. No, Jinho whispered. They're going to kill everything. The whole planet. Tay moved closer, sensing his fear. Jinho looked at his friend. They had survived exile. Survived the wild zone. Survived trained killers. But could they survive the full might of the Galactic Council? He thought about Captain Woojin. About the rescue mission. About the 3 days the transmission had mentioned. Help is coming, Jinho said, more to convince himself than anything. We just have to survive 3 more days. 3 days. Against an enemy willing to destroy an entire planet to cover up their crimes. Jinho gripped his knife and looked out at the jungle. The wild zone had tested him, shaped him, given him the deadliest companion in the galaxy. Now it was time to prove what humans and Void Fangs could do together. Time to show the council they had made a terrible mistake. The first ship arrived on day 19. Jinho saw it on the salvage sensors, a massive council destroyer dropping out of hyperspace. Big enough to carry an army. Big enough to level the entire planet. They're really going to do it, he said quietly. Tay stood beside him, tension radiating from its massive form. More Void Fangs had appeared over the past day. 3 of them now watched from the jungle's edge, evidence that Tay had been calling to its kind. They were larger than Tay, scarred from years of hiding. Their amber eyes glowed in the shadows. Jinho had tried to communicate with them, but they kept their distance. Only Tay seemed willing to trust a human. The destroyer's weapons powered up. Jinho could see the energy building on the sensors. They had maybe an hour before the first bombardment began. Then something unexpected happened. A new ship appeared. Smaller, faster, flying Earth Defense Force colors. That's Woojin, Jinho breathed. He actually came. Captain Woojin's voice crackled through the salvage communicator. Council Destroyer, this is Captain Woojin of the Earth Defense Force. You are in violation of interstellar law. Stand down immediately. Director Sin's cold voice responded. Captain, you are interfering with official council business. Leave now or be destroyed. This exile was illegal, Wujin said firmly. We have evidence that Kan Jinho was sent here to die as a political assassination. I'm here to bring him home. There is no one to retrieve. The human is dead. Then you won't mind if I land and verify that. A pause. Then Sin's voice turned sharp. You will leave immediately. That is an order. Not without my soldier. More ships began appearing. Earth Defense Force vessels, not many, but enough to make the council think twice about attacking. Wujin had brought backup Dot in the jungle. Jinho made a decision. Tae, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? The Void Fang rumbled affirmatively. I'm going to contact them. Tell them I'm alive. But that means they'll know about you too. Tae didn't hesitate. It moved closer, pressing its head against Jinho's shoulder. Permission. Trust. Jinho activated the communicator. This is Kang Jinho. I'm alive. And I'm not alone. Silence. Then chaos erupted on the channel. Jinho? Wujin's voice was stunned. You survived? How? Long story. But Captain, you need to know the truth about this place. About why the council really wanted me dead. What are you talking about? The Void Fangs aren't extinct. They're not mindless killers. They're intelligent, and the council committed genocide against them. Director Sin wants to finish the job. That's a lie. Sin shouted. The human has gone insane from isolation. Ignore him. I'm not crazy, Jinho said calmly. And I can prove it. Tae, show them. The Void Fang moved into the clearing where the ship sensors could see it clearly. The other three followed. 4 Void Fangs standing together, watching the sky. Wujin's voice was quiet with awe. Are those really Void Fangs? They're alive. They're intelligent. And they've been protecting me. Director Sin's voice turned panicked. This is exactly why the planet must be destroyed. These creatures are dangerous. They killed thousands. They defended their home. Jinho shot back. The council tried to colonize their planet. The Void Fangs fought back. You called them monsters to justify genocide. You have no proof of these accusations. Actually, I do. Jinho uploaded the files he had extracted from the council drone. Records of the colonization attempt. Orders to exterminate the Void Fangs. Communications about covering up the truth. Wujin's voice was hard now. Director Sin, I'm transmitting this data to every council member. The galaxy will know what happened here. You wouldn't dare. I already did. It's broadcasting on all channels right now. Then, you signed your death warrant. Sin screamed. The destroyer's weapons locked onto Wujin's ships. I will destroy all of you. No witnesses. No evidence. Do that and you prove everything we've said, Wujin replied calmly. But Sin was beyond reason. Fire! The destroyer opened fire. Energy beams lanced toward the Earth Defense Force ships. Wujin's fleet scattered, returning fire, but they were outgunned. On the planet, Jinho watched the battle helplessly. No, this isn't how it's supposed to end. Tae made a deep sound more felt than heard. The other Void Fangs joined in. The sound grew, resonating through the jungle. Tae, what are you? Then Jinho understood. Tae was calling. Not to the 3 Void Fangs here. To all of them. Every Void Fang hidden across the wild zone. The ground began to shake. Through the trees, Jinho saw shapes emerging. Dozens of them. Void Fangs of all sizes, coming out of hiding for the first time in decades. How many? Jinho whispered. Tae looked at him with those amber eyes. And Jinho understood. The Void Fangs weren't nearly extinct. They had hidden, waited, survived. Now they were ready to fight. The Void Fangs gathered in the clearing, forming a massive circle. Energy crackled between them, electromagnetic power building to impossible levels. "Tay, what are you doing?" The Void Fang pressed its head to Jinho's one last time. A goodbye. An apology for what came next. "Don't." Jinho started. Tay and its kind released everything. Of pulse of electromagnetic energy exploded outward from the planet. It was massive, powerful enough to reach orbit. Powerful enough to disable every piece of technology nearby. The Council destroyer went dark. Lights died. Weapons powered down. Life support failed. Wujin's ship suffered the same fate, drifting powerlessly in space. On the planet, Jinho's communicator sparked and died. All the salvaged equipment fried instantly, but the Void Fangs remained standing. Weakened, exhausted, but alive. Tay collapsed. Jinho rushed to his friend's side. "Tay, talk to me." The Void Fang's eyes opened weakly. It rumbled softly, not dying, just tired. "You stopped them," Jinho said, understanding. "You stopped everyone. Made it impossible for either side to keep fighting." Tay's head moved slightly. A nod. Above, without power, the ships would have to use emergency systems to restore basic functions. It would take hours. Maybe days. Time for the truth to spread. Time for the galaxy to see what had really happened. "Ambassador." Hana's voice suddenly crackled through on emergency channels, the only system still working. "This is Ambassador Hana broadcasting to all council members. I have evidence of Director Sin's crimes. The illegal exile of Kang Jinho. The attempted genocide of the Void Fang species. The falsification of records. All of it. You have no authority." Sin's voice was desperate now. "I have the truth. And every member of the Galactic Council is hearing this right now." Over the next hour, Hana laid out everything. The conspiracy. The cover-up. The lies about the Void Fangs. She had been gathering evidence for weeks, waiting for the right moment. This was that moment. Director Sin's voice grew quieter, defeated. This was necessary. The Void Fangs are too dangerous. Humans are too unpredictable. I did what was needed to protect the Council. "You committed genocide," Wujin said coldly. "You tried to murder one of my soldiers. You lied to the entire galaxy. The Council will understand. The Council is voting right now," Hana interrupted. "Voting to remove you from power. Voting to recognize the Void Fangs as a sapient species. Voting to issue a formal apology." Silence on the channel. Then a new voice, the Council speaker. "Director Sin, you are hereby stripped of authority and will face trial for crimes against sapient life. Captain Wujin, Earth Defense Force ships are cleared to land. Retrieve your soldier." Jinho sat with Tay, listening to it all. "We won," he said softly. "Not with weapons. Not with violence. But we won." Tay rumbled weakly. The other Void Fangs had gathered around them, a protective circle. When Wujin's ship finally landed hours later, using emergency power, the captain stepped out to find something unexpected. Jinho stood in the clearing, surrounded by Void Fangs. The soldier looked different, harder, stronger, changed by his time in the Wild Zone. "Captain," Jinho said. "Good to see you." Wujin stared. "Jinho, you really did it. You survived. Not just survived. Not just survived. I found something important here." He gestured to Tay. "This is Tay, my friend. And this," he indicated the other Void Fangs, "is his family." The Void Fangs watched the new humans carefully, ready to defend themselves, but not aggressive. "The Council wants you to come home," Wujin said. "You'll be treated as a hero. The soldier who exposed corruption and saved a species." "I appreciate that," Jinho said. "But I'm not coming back." "Not yet. What?" Jinho looked at the jungle around him, at the Void Fangs who had revealed themselves, at Tay, who had risked everything for him. The Void Fangs need someone to speak for them, someone who understands both sides. An ambassador. I want that to be me. Wujin smiled slowly. Ambassador Jinho has a nice ring to it. I'll come back to Earth eventually. Report on everything. Work with the Council to make sure the Void Fangs are protected. But my place is here now, building the bridge between our species. Tay rumbled in approval. The Council agreed to establish a research station here, Wujin said. Peaceful contact. Scientific exchange. They'll need someone to run it. I know just the person. Jinho smiled. Someone who actually cares about doing things right. Ambassador Hannah. She'd be perfect. Over the next few days, arrangements were made. Hannah would come to establish the station. Earth would send diplomats. The Void Fangs would slowly come out of hiding, learning to trust again. On the final evening before Wujin departed, Jinho stood at the edge of the clearing. Tay beside him. The purple sky swirled overhead, beautiful now instead of threatening.